again. I'm Tom Morrow, your host of another Living Legacies. And tonight we are very pleased to have Randy Mitchell, longtime civic leader, retired Marine, and fellow Rotarian from Oceanside. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You've, I don't know where to begin because you've had such a varied career and been long involved in Oceanside. Let's start at the beginning. You were born or you were raised in Paducah, Kentucky?
I was born in Elizabethtown and raised in Paducah. That's correct.
What kind of a town was Paducah to grow up in?
About 29. Oh, grow up in it was wonderful. Small town, you know, which I think is better for children anyway. But it was about 29,000 when I was a boy.
Yeah, I went through there when I was in the Navy. Midnight one night. I remember it was midnight and it was the dark. It looked like an old river town.
They rolled up the streets.
Yeah. Now you were in World War II. You joined the Marine Corps. Where'd you go to college before we?
University of Kentucky, and I went in the Marines right after graduation in June of June of '42.
Mm-hmm. And you were in the Pacific.
I had 4 campaigns in the Pacific and occupation duty in China with the 1st Marine Division.
Okay, what were some of the campaigns that you were involved in?
Eastern New Guinea, although the fighting had stopped by that time, but it was still a combat area when I joined the 1st Division. Then Cape Gloucester, Peleliu, Okinawa, and then occupation of China.
How long were you? Did you get to come home right after the war was over?
Pretty much. We were in China for a month, but we were still in Okinawa month or so after the war actually stopped. So had to wait till everything was signed and all that kind of thing.
Now you were an artillery officer?
Yes. All the way.
Do you still have your hearing?
No, I've got hearing aids in. They call it artillery, but
yeah. What now? When did you make a decision to stay in the Marine Corps? Well,
it wasn't totally my decision. I remained as a reservist through various organizations, including Organized Reserve in Chicago. And when Korea hit, we all came in, whether we wanted to or not. I was happy to go in. I wasn't married then, still a bachelor. And I really looked forward to getting back on active duty.
That was deja vu all over again.
All over again, right.
Well, now, it was during the Korean War. Now, were you in Korea?
Yes, for a short time.
Okay. Now, it was during the Korean War that you met your lady.
Yes, but not in Korea, of course.
Well, no, I mean,
we both came in. I got called back as a reserve officer, and I already had a year or 2 on active duty during the Korean thing when I got sent to Washington. And Carol was right out of Vassar College, and she had a reserve commission, and so they pulled her in too.
Now, what was Carol doing in Washington?
She's working for Bureau Personnel of the Navy. She was a naval officer. And we met in the cafeteria.
Right.
She doesn't want me to tell the story that I like to tell, so I won't do it here.
Oh, okay. Well, now, what were you doing in Washington? What was your job?
I was working for Headquarters Marine Corps, reorganizing the reserve. I was on the team that put the Organized Reserve back together again because they'd all been called up for the Korean conflict. And I was part of the group that put it together. I was a public affairs officer, but I still was on that team that put the reserve back in position.
Now, you had mentioned to me that you had been at Camp Pendleton at one time or another as many as 4 times. And of course, the last time you were the PAO, or the public affairs officer, and you were the public affairs officer for a rather popular guy that's still around here, is Major General Ray Murray.
Ray Murray, he's a tremendous person. He and his late wife Helen too. I like both of them very much.
And now that was in those days. Things weren't as immediate as they are today. You only had what 3 television stations to deal with.
Yeah,
a number of newspapers and.
Yeah, the base, being the nature of what it is, attracts attention all over. And as public affairs officer at the base, we had national media, international media once or twice during those 3 years. And of course they mobilized for the Cuban event, the division did, and that brought everybody in, all the media people.
Well, and then in calmer times you probably helped with a couple of movies too, didn't you?
Yeah. Gene Roddenberry and the film that he did about outer space kind of thing. I forget, Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah. They did some stuff out at...
Oh, yeah.
It's on one of those
Well,
far-off planets.
yeah. And I wasn't advised or anything like that,
Yeah.
but I got to know the people when they were out there shooting.
So you retired in what, 63?
63.
Okay, and you and Carol decided to make Oceanside your home.
Yes, I think we had decided that before I retired, but we did in any event. We had 3 children by that time, and the schooling that they knew up to that point was all here.
Mm-hmm.
They were quite young, and then we had a 4th child after I retired.
Now you went into business, private business, at the Marine Corps.
When I retired, I was made vice president of a savings and loan for about 7 months until it was sold. And then I opened my own business, Mitchell and Associates, very original title, but it was advertising public relations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you were involved in the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, I got involved in the Chamber almost immediately, and some 4 years later I was president.
Well, now in '64, those were 63, 64. Around that period, that was a critical period for Oceanside because that's when the harbor came into fruition.
Yes, the groundbreaking was while I was still on active duty, and I happened to be there representing the base when they actually broke ground for the.
I was going to say you had a little bit to do with helping Oceanside get some of that land, didn't you?
Yeah, I was on the base staff, and that's the group that got the land, was instrumental in getting the land for the city,
Mm-hmm.
with the mayor working on it. Irwin Sklar was the person who had probably the most.
He was kind of the driving force.
He was the driving force,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Let's jump ahead a little bit now. You were for a long time involved in the Chamber. When did you become a Rotarian?
I think it's 1967. I have trouble
Okay.
remembering the exact number, but it's about the same time I became Chamber president.
Okay, and
that same
of
span.
course, you as a Rotarian, you ended up being governor of the district.
I went through the usual chair, was president of the club, and then later became governor of the district, right.
Now, was it in '67, '68 that's when you were doing public relations for the Tri-City Hospital District? And that was when the formation of the foundation
Yes.
came into being. Tell us about how that happened.
Well, we had 5 elected directors in those days, and they were all wonderful people. They really were. They worked hard and did some great things to cause that hospital to come into being. Jean Ashbrook from Vista, a retired school teacher, was a member of the board, and it was her idea to have the Tri-City Hospital Foundation, and she gave us what amounted to $250,000 when she passed away. And the first meeting, the organization meeting, was in the basement area of the old Bridge Motor Inn. It's not, a Flying Bridge Room at the Bridge Motor Inn. I think it's got a different name right now, but that's where it was formed. I was there that evening. I don't claim credit for forming it, but I was present when it happened.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about this picture that I've got here with you and Lieutenant General, is that Schaefer?
The general is Toby Munn. He's on the right. Bob Schaefer on the left is the president of the chamber, and I was present there welcoming him on board.
Now, was this the incoming commanding general, or was it First Division?
No, he was the commanding general at that time. That was taken right after I retired.
Okay. And what about this picture with the guy? This guy looks familiar, John Steiger. Tell me about this picture.
Well, Johnny had been the president of the chamber the year before, and I was then the president of the chamber. And General Fields is being welcomed aboard as an honorary member. He was base commander at the time, Lou Fields.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we're moving into the 70s. You and Bobby Thill were on heading up the bicentennial.
Yes, Bobby Thill was the chair of the bicentennial committee that had been appointed by the mayor, Howard Richardson. I was vice chairman, and we had a goodly number of other people helping us put that celebration together. The key thing that we did was form Heritage Park, and if you could see what it was like then, there was hardly anything out there, but we formed the park. The buildings were there because that had been a city yard. Originally, it had been county property.
Well, for those who haven't been out to Heritage Park, this is a nice little nook of land just north of the Mission. It's accessed.
Yes. north of Mission on Peary Road. And it's quite an experience to go out there. Edith Swaim has put together a tremendous number of photographs that she herself has acquired, and they're well displayed. They have moved a farmer home out there, and it's full of antiques and things to look at. I was responsible for the Blade building, which the old newspaper that came out there. But it was a group effort. We had a lot of people working on it.
Well, here's a picture of you with the kids in the printing press of the old Blade building.
Yeah, that's.
How tough was it to collect all this stuff?
After we got started, it wasn't tough, but we had the building out there in the very beginning, and it came time for the city centennial. So I thought, heck, we better do something to that building, because it was a Rotary project and it didn't look up to Rotary standards. And I got busy and raised $10,000 in about 2 weeks, and bought the first press, I think the one you're looking at there. And from then on, things came to us.
And when you say it was a Rotary project, Rotary was the Blade building was their project?
The Rotary Club of Oceanside moved the Blade building from downtown, down where the park area, or the theater is now, the big theater, and moved it out there. They were clearing out that area, and then later on we put together the museum.
Okay. How many buildings have they moved out there so far, do you know?
To move buildings out, the school was moved in time for this bicentennial. The jailhouse came out a little bit later. The Blade building, which is the Antique Printing Museum, was there in time for the opening. The house I forget the name of it, but it used to be a post office downtown years and years and years ago. That has been moved out since then. Everything else is as it was.
Now, this is officially a city park,
yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's a memory of the bicentennial.
How many people did you have working with you on that?
I can't remember exactly, but I'd say there were at least 12 people on the committee. There's a plaque out there at the beginning. Everybody who's watching this program, go out and look at that plaque, and they'll see all the names. And I'm making a joke, but that is there, and it was put together by the citizens of the community in celebration of the nation's bicentennial, and we were appointed by the mayor to do just that.
Now, you've been involved with a number of projects over the years, and of course the Tri-City Foundation was one of your first big projects. But I suppose the one that you're most proud of has to be the Oceanside Museum of Art.
It is indeed.
Now, tell me about how do you start a Museum of Art foundation?
Get a lot of good people working together is what you really do. Dedicated people who are willing to not take no for an answer, and stay with it in spite of the hardships that come along, and there always will be. We were formed initially by Larry Bagley, who was then the mayor, to find a theater. He wanted to build a performing arts theater. And we did a study and found we couldn't do that. Escondido had already done one, and we were behind on that one.
You wanted to do something of that magnitude?
Yeah, he wanted to bring more culture to the area. And he asked a number of us to be on a committee. He designated Carol and myself as the co-chairs, but nonetheless we were. And we got about 12 or 15 people around us and worked hard for about 7 years or so. And 5 of those years when we finally decided to have an art museum. We met all over town. Wherever there was an empty table that we could have a meeting, once a month we met. And we finally reached the point to where we were going to do the museum, and we zeroed in on the former City Hall, where the museum now is located. And the city gave it to us, $1 a year, for 50 years. Fortunately, we had a couple locally, the Gleason, Bob and Estelle Gleason, who gave us $250,000 as a startup money.
That was really the seed money that got everything started.
If they hadn't done that, we'd probably still be trying to raise money for the museum. But they did in any event, and by the time we finally spent the money, it had grown to about $272,000, which turned out to be almost exactly the amount of money it took to remodel the building. And now, of course, the museum is in the process of putting together some expansion plans, and that'll be another story at another time, but that's how it started.
what, when people think of Oceanside, they don't think of fine art. And how did that, I can see a theater, but what drove you to the idea of art?
Well, everybody on the committee was interested in art in one form or another. We were all motivated in that direction. And all my advertising background, I worked with artists from time to time in that sort of thing. But we knew there was none up here. There was no fine art museum anywhere. And there was a need that needed to be filled, and to us, Oceanside was a place to do it. And fortunately, with the help of the city and the Gleasons, we were able to get that thing open, and we've done tremendously. I think, well, it's now an international museum. We've had shows in from Germany. We just finished the Samoan thing, as you probably know, and the first time that's ever been done anywhere. So we've got a good group down there. Skip Paul, who is our executive director, is tremendous. And if I start naming other names, I'll leave somebody out, so I won't. But
how many square foot do you have?
For exhibition space, 3,000. We have about 5,000 in the building. We've got a workroom, of course, where we build sets and stuff like that.
3,000 is, as museums go for medium-sized cities like Oceanside, how does that compare?
Well, for a community this size, I think that's pretty good. For a museum, generally, that's not very big. And we're about to start an expansion program that'll quadruple it, I think, in size. I don't know the exact figure.
So your thoughts are to take in the old fire building or fire station?
Our goal, and the tacit approval of the City Council, is that we can expand into the fire station. In order to do that, we're going to build a two-story structure that will join the two buildings together. And we don't know for sure when we'll get the fire station. We can't get it, of course, until the city's able to construct another fire station. They have the land for it, but they don't have the money right now.
Well, now that building, or that space that the historical society is in right now, is that part of the plan?
That's part of it, but the agreement is that they'll remain there until such time as somebody can find another location for them. So we won't throw them out by any stretch of the word. In fact, we'll cooperate together to make sure this thing works.
What kind of time frame are you on?
Well, we don't think we'll even get close to having the fire station for 5 or maybe more years than that. I think that you'll hear, toward the end of this year, you'll hear something more positive than what I'm giving you now. And certainly first of next year, we'll probably start a campaign to raise money, if we haven't already done it.
How much money do you think it'll take?
Now you got a question I can't answer. I don't know the answer to that question. First place, is not totally designed. It's just a sketch at this point in time. It's an idea. And I hate to put a figure because I may be wrong.
Well,
we have raised some money, however, already.
I was going to say, you folks have been extremely successful with that, with something that a lot of people kind of wondered.
I'll tell you, Tom, when we were first starting to talk about the museum, we hadn't done anything yet, and I was searching for money and help and support and so on. I had people, very good friends of mine, who've been here longer than I have.
Thought you maybe be a little bit loony?
No, well, you might translate it that way. What they said to us was, you'll never get enough money to build it, and if you build it, nobody'd come. And they really believed that.
And of course, you proved them wrong on both points.
Exactly. We started, thanks to the board he had, Jenny Tompkins primarily, we started having exhibitions in there a year and a half before we closed down to remodel. And they were tremendously successful. In a year's time, we had 11,000, 12,000 people go through to see the exhibitions that we put in, and the walls were painted white and the floor was painted black. That was all we had.
Well, this has been tremendously popular with the schools around the area, not only Oceanside, but other communities. From
the very beginning, we thought of the children, and we did our best to get them coming in there as often as they can. The schools have cooperated. The foundation that Larry Hatter heads, that has money for schools and so forth, has helped us a little bit on it. But we've had a lot of children go through there, a tremendous number.
Tell me about your family now. All your kids living in the area?
No, they're in California. Our number one son is up at Castro Valley area in the Bay Area.
What does he do?
He was a banker. He's now in training programs for industry. I can't give you a better example than that. Then our number 2 child, a daughter, lives here. She is a housewife and a mother. Her husband is Chemo Marquardt. And
the principal?
He's the principal at one of the elementary schools. Our number 3 child is a son.
She's the one I keep accusing her of looking like her mother.
She does.
Yeah, I know
You're exactly
she does.
right. A lot like her mother. And that's a compliment to
Yes,
my
it
daughter.
is. Most definitely.
Anyway, our number 3 child is a son. He's an attorney in Sacramento. He has 2 children. He'll have a 3rd pretty shortly. Then our number 4 is a daughter in Orange County, Mission Viejo. Her husband works for Boeing. He's in their design and development area, and what he does, I can't put a name on it, but he's right there working primarily for the Air Force, I think.
How many grandkids?
I have 10 now. Our 4th daughter, child, just had twins last November, and so that brought us up to 10, and we've got another one coming in April, so we'll have 11.
But I haven't heard that any of them are a Marine or none of them are in public relations.
No, none of them really wanted to do that. And I have a son, the Sacramento, the attorney, who was a naval officer. And I don't know how much more time we've got. I can tell you all kinds of sea stories, but he was going to school at Claremont Men's College. And he came home during the summertime. We'd had him get rid of his car because he had to go to Switzerland for a semester while he was in school. And he had borrowed our car working here in summertime. And he asked for the car. And he'd gone about 5 minutes. His mother said, well, you didn't go on very long. He said, I couldn't find the recruiting station. She said, what? That's the last thing we thought about was recruiting. He wanted to be a naval officer. And over a period of time, he was successful and did that. He was in the Navy about 5 years. And
all of them are Oceanside educated? They've
all Oceanside. And no matter what anybody might say, we have a tremendous school system in this town. We really do. The only thing wrong with the school system is some of the students don't study.
Well, I think that's pretty much the case in any school.
Right. No, we have a good system, and the kids all benefited from it.
Well, we about run out of time. I've enjoyed our friendship down through the years, and we're both in the same Rotary Club, and I know that you've had a tremendous contribution. You and Carol both have had a tremendous contribution to Oceanside's civic and community life, and we appreciate you taking the time to come in and share that with us here today on Living Legacies. This has been Living Legacies. I'm Tom Morrow. We've been talking with Randy Mitchell, longtime civic and community leader here in Oceanside. Please join us again next time on Living Legacies. This program is made possible through the generous underwriting grants of Hatter Williams and Purdy Insurance Services of Oceanside, providing North County with complete insurance needs for more than half a century. The TriQuest Corporation, providing quality office and manufacturing space in Oceanside. And the North County Times, serving all of North County with complete local daily news coverage and internet services.